Welcome to Social Thread Podcast. At Social Thread, we are a nonprofit where you can be a part of a community where you will belong and you will thrive and explore your faith on your own terms. I am Robert Payne, and as always, I am joined by
Rob Reinders.
Awesome. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the third pillar of Social Thread, love yourself. But before you can love yourself, you have to know more about who you are. So, Rob, how can we learn more about ourselves?
So I think learning more about yourself, having good processes and tools for self-reflection is one of the most important things you can do as you're learning how to adult. So I don't think there is such a thing as growing up. There's just learning some tough lessons and then learning what you're going to do with them. And the biggest thing I think we can do, as we have struggles on our journey, as we grow on our journey, is to have that process of healthy self-reflection. Because as we get older, and as we have big checkpoints in our lives, like even graduating college, getting married, having kids, we ask those questions: who am I? What am I doing here? And perhaps one of the most popular things people ask is, how the heck can I be happier? I am miserable in some way, or I think I'm miserable. How can I be happier? It seems like whatever I do, I can't be happier about myself. And in the Bible, Jesus talks a lot about, what it means to be lost. Because a lot of times when we're not happy or we feel like we don't have direction, we feel lost. But Jesus says, "Hey, I found you. God has found you. You're not alone." And there's a lot of different stories and parables he tells about that. About even just one person. God pursues us, and God's love is always in pursuit of us, and says, you are important and you are not alone. So those stories remind us that God's presence is always with us. Love is always with us, and it means that our lives matter. So when we're exploring our faith, it's really important to take a deep dive on what we believe about ourselves and about what we're telling ourselves. Because God tells us that we matter, that we are loved, that we are not alone, but we often struggle telling ourselves that. So our beliefs and our personality traits strongly inform what we believe about God and how the practice of faith and spirituality can most benefit our lives. And one way we do that is, I think a lot of us have taken even maybe just like a Facebook quiz or something. But if you've ever interviewed for a job or gone through a leadership program or anything like that, you've probably taken what's called a personality inventory. So that's like the Myers-Briggs, or what are some of the other popular ones? There's a ton out. Oh, the DISC. That's the other one I'm thinking of. And they tell you like a lot about what your tendencies and your passions and your strengths and your weaknesses are. And one of the really popular ones, especially around faith-based and Christian circles in the last few years, is something called the Enneagram. And stuff like the Enneagram and these personality tests gives us insights into our worldview and our emotions. And they help us understand why we do what we do and why we believe what we believe. And they can be really helpful because of these great self-reflective tools that can help us, I think, live better lives, be happier, and feel better about ourselves. So one thing to think about, though, is that these are not spiritual practices or disciplines. They're not medical diagnoses, unless like an actual psychologist or therapist or someone to do a diagnosis. Don't take any of these and then say like, oh my God, I have this disorder.
Right.
That's not what they're for. They're tools to give you insight. They're tools to help you along the way. So the Enneagram is a popular one, and there's 9 types. I am a type 9. which they call type 9 the conflict avoider. So, but really, to say it positively, they call it the peacemaker. So nines are trying to always keep things on the level. They're always trying to take that conflict in the world and bring order and calm. And so we're really well liked, but we're just terrible at like pushing our own opinion and our own way and standing up for ourselves. And you know, so each of the Enneagram types has some descriptor like that. Like eights are the, you know, they stand up to bullies. They're the personality in the room. They're the folks, you know, you probably see out on the front lines of protests, fighting for social justice and whatnot. They are not afraid to make their voices heard and to get their hands dirty. I could go on and on about this, but I found the Enneagram to be, you know, that insight to know that, oh, I'm this peacemaker, but I'm also this conflict avoider, which explains like sort of all these conflicts I get into because I'm not willing to face up these certain things, and that, you know, led to times of feeling times of low self-worth, and to where I had to remind myself that oh wait, no, go back to that, like, you know, you're lost, but you may think you're lost, but you've been found. Like God loves you. God thinks you're important. You are enough. You are enough. And that's been really, like, personally, but also spiritually, really important to me. So you know, other than, you know, including these kinds of personality tests and stuff, like, are there any other tools or resources or processes that you've gone through to do, you know, some deeper self-reflection and that have helped you on your journey of faith?
Yeah, sure. You know, when I was interviewing for this job, actually, you know, we went through a process with a company, and you know, they were just trying to assess, you know, what kind of leader I was, what kind of personality I had. And honestly, for the first time, someone had put a frame on, you know, what kind of, you know, how I act. And they said, you know, for the first time I've heard the words that I am what's called a divergent thinker. And I got to tell you, I've always thought that was a liability, you know, because you know, if you're a convergent thinker, you know, you're taking lots of data and you're drilling down to a particular answer. But for me, I start from that answer and then I take it to a whole other direction. And for me to see that as not only a positive light, but to go, oh, okay, I can look back in my history and say, wow, I really, really thrive in places and in activities where I thinker. I can see where certain things, you know, that people might get frustrated at me in the past. I go, oh, well, see, I'm a diverse. That's why, well, in that particular situation, and also too, to be able to look past and say, oh, well, that's why I didn't do, you know, that's why that particular activity or a particular job, a particular career path, didn't work. That didn't work for me. So, so to be able to put, to be able to name what that is a really, really great tool. So to be able to have that filter and to go, oh, okay, so that's why I'm really not good at that activity, or I'm really, that activity doesn't bring me joy. This kind of activity does. So yeah. So I think that being able to know those things about yourself really help you put your path in some perspective.
Yeah, and I think if folks are looking for resources or next steps on this, Ian Morgan Cron and Suzanne Stabile's The Road Back to You is a really good starter set, easy to read, quick read, and also a reference on the Enneagram. There's also a Richard Rohr book on the Enneagram that's a little more intense and detailed. But really too, you know, if you've ever done any kind of therapy or spiritual direction, or, you know, even just having a conversation with a friend where you're like, hey, like, you know, you have to be in a place where you're ready to hear some criticism about yourself, but even just hearing some hard truths, and instead of running away from those, like you said, um, being able to look at what we think is a weakness and leveraging that as a strength, or surrounding us with people who, you know, complement our strengths in those places where we are weak. Instead of seeing everything as a criticism, but more of an opportunity to improve or to engage with others, I think is really powerful, and it really helps us with our feelings of self-worth, to realize like, oh, we all have something to offer here, and people aren't better than each other. We're just different. And I think that can help us a lot emotionally and spiritually. So I think I've rambled on enough for today, but good talk, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Great as usual. And if this is your first time listening to Social Thread and you are saying to yourself, boy, I am going through this, you know, trying to find my personality, trying to figure out where I'm belonging in life by yourself, we want to tell you that you do not have to, that the reason Social Thread exists is you to be a part of. And if you want to get involved, easy, just go to socialthread.org. And right there, you can click on get involved, and we'll reach out and make sure that are a part of one of our groups. And maybe, I'll also say, if you're listening to this and want to get involved, we're also a nonprofit, so you can support us in that way. You can go to socialthread.org/support and make a tax-deductible gift. Other than that, hey, great podcast. Thanks, Rob.
As always, take care, everybody.
All right. See you next time.